Hi, I'm Linda, and this is the standing portion of our yoga support class. Starting with some hip movement, just from side to side. This is a balance strategy that we tend to forget as we get older. If you get bumped into, you can actually move from the hips to maintain your balance. We'll come back into the center, move our hips forward and back, in that crease of the thigh. Let's do one more. And then back to the center. For some mobility, we'll go into some hip circles, bending the knees a little bit, and we're coming around. Let's do one more and reverse directions. Last one. Back into the center. We take this to a stretch for the hips, so bringing our feet so they're both on an angle, same angle. We'll bend the front knee and slide weight into the back hip. You can use your chair for support if you'd like to. But remember, if you lean into that front leg, you're missing the hip stretch. So make sure you bring weight into that back hip. And we'll come through the center and go to the other side. So again, feet are on the same angle. We're bending the front knee, sliding weight into the back hip. We'll do two more. And then let's stand perpendicular to the chair. We'll bring the outside leg back. Outside arm is up, coming into a side bend. Inhale to lift up and over. Exhaling back into the center. Let's do a few on each side. Using the breath to help expand the muscles between the ribs. And we'll switch to the other side. Again, stepping that outside leg back. Outside arm is up. We're inhaling to lift up and over. Exhale back to center. And we'll do two more. Returning to the center. Take this into a few balance practice moves. Bringing our feet completely together to narrow our base of support. Standing tall, feeling the core muscles. We'll close our eyes. And then if you feel comfortable, you can bring your hands off of your chair. Find your breath. And just stay here for a few breaths. Now, if closing your eyes makes you dizzy, you want to keep the eyes open. So we can find our chairs, open our eyes. We'll take this to an even more narrow base by bringing the heel of one foot in front of the toes of the other, as if you were walking on a line. And then again, you can tighten your thighs, tighten your core, find your breath. If you feel comfortable, bring your hands off the chair. If you don't, you could keep a finger there or a few fingers. If you feel really comfortable, you could try closing your eyes. Otherwise, focus on a spot. And let's switch to the other side, other foot in front. Again, tighten the core. Find your breath, find your focus. Lift the fingers if you're comfortable. And then finally, let's take this to a single stance, leg. So you could just lift one heel but keep the toes on the ground, sort of like a tripod stance. Fingers on the chair. You take this more to a tree pose by turning that leg out and support the heel on the standing leg. If you feel comfortable, you can lift the toes. If you feel really comfortable, bring your hands into your tree pose. Your hands together at your heart center. And let's switch to the other side. Again, your focus or your gaze helps you to balance. So you want to find a spot to look at that's not moving as you choose your variation. And we'll bring that back down. So let's take this to some of our standing poses where we're using a counter for support. You could use the back of your chair, but a counter or a kitchen tabletop will give you more support, which is safer. We're taking this into a few of our standing yoga poses, starting with our warrior twos. So your second and third toe is lined up with your heel. Heel of the front foot is lined up with the arch or the heel of the back foot. We're bending the front knee, so the knee is lining up with our toes. Hand to the counter or out long. Back hand on the hip or out long. We'll find our breath. Again, in and out through our noses if we can. Softening our gazes, softening our shoulders. Let's bring this into our triangle pose. One hand to the counter or to your leg. The other hand to the hip. We'll straighten the front leg, and that top hand can either stay there or lift to the sky. We're stacking through our shoulders. Keeping weight equal in both feet. And let's move into our modified angle. Bend that front knee. I'm going to get a little closer so I can rest my forearm on the counter. And then that back hand, let's bring it behind our back so we'll get a chest stretch. Remembering that the front knee still lines up with our toes. You might want to check it, make sure it's not falling to the inside. Coming around to our runner's lunge. We'll bring the back foot around with us. Front knee bends, and we're getting a stretch through the calf of the back leg. With that back calf muscles tight, the foot might want to go out on a diagonal. We're trying to remember to keep it really lined up as if you were standing on a line. We'll slide the front foot back to move into our planks. Pushing the counter away, feeling strong. Feel your belly muscles pulling up, tail reaching down. And let's take this to a few push-ups. Elbows go back as you move towards the counter, not out to the sides. We want to look like an arrowhead from the tips of our heads to the tips of our elbows. You can come onto the balls of your feet. Let's do one more. We'll switch to the other side, starting with our warrior twos. So we'll bring the other foot forward. And finding our alignment, second and third toes through the heel of the front foot with the arch of the back foot. Bending the front knee as it lines up over the toes, hand to the counter or out long, back hand to the hip or reaching long. Softening our shoulders, feeling strong and proud. Let's move into triangle pose. Straightening our front leg as our hips slide back, arm to the counter, one to the hip or up to the sky, stacking through our shoulders and our hips. Now lengthen through our sides. And moving into modified angle, we'll bend the front knee, resting our forearm on the counter, hand behind the back to open through our chest. Finding our breath, and watching that the front knee really stays reaching towards the front toes. Let's come around to our runner's lunge. Facing the counter, we'll switch that back foot up so that the heel and toe are in alignment as we bend the front knee. Sliding the front foot backward into our planks. Again, feel as though you're zipping up through that low belly. And we'll add this time a tap to each shoulder, trying not to let our weight shift around. And as we tap, to add an element of brain work, we could think of boys' names or girls' names or animals. Let's do one more on each shoulder. We'll take this into a cat stretch, so we're curling through, especially the low belly, right as we hinge back. You could stay here if this feels good on your low back. Want a little more lengthen, stretch, bend the knees, and come into a down puppy. As we inhale, we're lengthening back through our tails. As we exhale, we're reaching the mid-back towards the mid-sternum. Let's take one more breath in whatever pose you're choosing. And we can start to walk ourselves back into the counter. One more stretch left. We want to stretch our hamstrings. We want to support our upper bodies as we do this. And so we want to make sure we don't bend our knees. So walk yourself down. If you're tighter, you might already be feeling a stretch here. Otherwise, you could come lower, making sure the upper body stays supported. And the hamstrings are these muscles. Right, so as soon as you bend your knees, we lose that stretch. So keep lengthening through the legs and supporting the upper body. Let's bring ourselves back up. You can walk in towards your chair, walk back up through the hands. And that concludes our standing portion of our yoga support class.